All right, boys, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to the meta because we have not done one of these Ryan reports in a hot second. And we have had a ban list, we have had a main box, and both have been huge on the meta. It is massive. The meta is not the same as it was before. It is completely different. Let's talk about it. We just had Yugioh $500 tournament every other week on the channel. It's the largest Duel Links event that's still hosted, and it is always a good one. We almost had 300 players this time around. Largest Yugioh we've had in a very long time. So definitely, if you want to play in those huge tournaments, it's free to enter. You just go down to the Discord, and every other week we host those massive tournaments, and then every week we at least host a smaller scale Duel Links tournament. So definitely go check those out. But let's talk about it. So after the ban list, well, let's talk about before the ban list, because we didn't really talk too much about that. The previous meta that we came out of was pretty much just Phantom Knight all over the place, with nothing else really even coming close. You either played Phantom Knight or you played decks that directly countered Phantom Knights. So, Abyss Actors with, Seal Tomb. Some people said Metal Foes could be good. Metal Foes ended up being complete crap in BO3, and honestly just having that KC Cup meme best of one to it, where it was just more of a surprise. No one knew what it was, and then as soon as people knew what it was, GG, the builds didn't work anymore. Moving into the ban list, however, Phantom Knights essentially just got absolutely slaughtered. They got destroyed. They lost their Limit 2, they lost their Limit 3, and both are extremely good for them, right? Obviously, TTH is a good card, but things like Enemy Controller are very strong for Gandora, who was also hit, but let's be fair, not by much. Gandora is still a very fantastic deck. And that ultimately led to Phantom Knights kind of taking a back seat. They still did good in this tournament. You're going to see when we go to the top cut here, I have the breakdown of all the stuff that we have for the tournaments. This is how many people entered with what decks. But this does not necessarily show you deck strength. When we get to top cut, you'll see the actual deck strength. What you want to pay attention to in this graphic is, how many people enter the deck. So namely, you see Harpies is the most played deck at 28, and there's a reason for that. That's because in the first tournament we had with just the ban list, Harpies won that tournament, and a lot of people had worries of Harpies potentially, coming back to the metagame, and we don't really want Harpies to come back. We want the Harpy the meta to continuously evolve. We don't want it to ever go backwards, right? Makes sense, understandable. How's it going to shape up from there? Obviously, DDD being second up is huge. DDD was a good deck, but it wasn't quite meta quite yet going into Yugioh. Everyone had their eyes on Harpies, Phantom Knights, stuff like that. And then Fluffles was like the big question, right? Is Fluffles going to be good or not? And let's take a look, actually. Boom, look at this. This is what the actual top 32 ended up being. You can see Harpy was a complete red herring. Only one Harpy even made it to the top 32 from all those that entered. I believe it was 28. But very interesting. Look at this. Look at how diverse this metagame is. The most dominant deck, quote unquote dominant, was DDD. And that was only 4 entries. They were just on top of the 3 entry decks, Burning Abyss, Buster Blader, Gandora, Phantom Knight, Odd Eyes. This is a very, very diverse and healthy meta. That being said, the reason it's like that is because, honestly, if we go back to this other graphic, you could see that while DDD had a lot of representation, Harpy still ultimately had the most representation, And I do believe, I said this last time, I believe Harpy is just out of the metagame. I don't think they're part of the meta whatsoever. So if those 28 players chose to play DDD or something else, ultimately, the meta is going to look a little different from what this breakdown looks. But I'll be honest, even from just the quality of the games themselves, watching Melodious make it all the way to the finals, even though one topped, it really does feel like the meta is in a healthy state where all decks are kind of, or at least all meta decks are all kind of at the same level, and it's just a matter of, who gets their combo off first, who opens their hand traps, because this definitely is a hand trap centric meta. Hand traps are where to Kiteroid, White Princess, all that stuff. That is what is important. Now, DDD did end up winning the tournament, right? This is actually the winning deck list right here. You can see him playing all of the new cards using that command of the Doom King. He's using the new Oblivion King, using the new Exceed, using the new Savant Thomas, which is honestly probably the best thing. Very fantastic deck list. If you'd like to see all of the top 8 deck lists, definitely make sure to, again, be in that Discord channel, and we have all of them listed for you in there. Let's talk about some of these decks in kind of an order, starting with DDD. DDD is just so much stronger now, I feel. They have just more kill potential. They actually have a true turn 1 now. We saw them using the selection box exclusive, the Gian Trainer, Gian Stranger, as I call him, to draw 3 cards and just set up all sorts of crazy plays on their opponent's turn. And just in general, DDD just feels super comfy. The skill was already really good, letting you keep your scales and putting them up, which is exactly what pendulums need. And really, it's just the most solid deck in the metagame. Relatively free to play. You do have to, you obviously can go into the structure deck if you want to make it a little bit cheaper. And it, overall, DDD being a good deck brought down the cost of the game. You don't necessarily need the Gian Trainer, even though that's locked. You don't necessarily need to get it. You could play without it. You can kind of see this guy. There's just that one card that he has in there. The High King Genghis, obviously only being able to negate on your turn is kind of a problem, but when you go for that OTK, having that negate could be really, really good for you to stop karma cuts, TTHs, stuff like that. We saw end up being very good as well. Burning Abyss got Tour Guide, which is really cool. Made them, they could search Tour Guide, even though it's at 1, they can search it, and it lets them search any other card, which lets them go into any Exceed, which lets them, or their Dante Exceed, which lets them get any effect that they want off. Very, very, very powerful. We have seen so many OTKs stop because Farfa, takes a card out, takes an Exceed monster out, no more materials, etc., etc. Tour Guide's done very, very well for this deck, and I actually do think it's actually a really good deck now. If DDD is tier 1, I'd probably place it somewhere tier 3, maybe Rogue. It's still missing a little bit to get there, but it's still extremely powerful nonetheless. So Tour Guide, great addition for Burning Abyss. Buster Blader continues to be the anti-meta graveyard deck. It can just quick play, banish graveyard effects, so Burning Abyss, Gandora, Kiteroids, Phantom Knights is still very, very strong for those purposes. That's why you see so many end up topping. Phantom Knights still at 3 tops. The deck is not dead. Even though it got slaughtered and it's not nearly as strong as it was, it's now brought into more line with the rest of the decks. I hate to see decks get nerfed, but, hey, it had to happen. Phantom Knight was too strong, but it looks like if you're a free-to-play player especially, your gems and your dream tickets and all that stuff are not going to go to waste, and Yugioh will probably be still kind of the go-to person for free-to-play players to have a free-to-play deck. I would not choose Harpies personally. I would go for Phantom Knights, especially with the character coming back. Odd Eyes, oh my god, I want to talk about Odd Eyes. Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon popped the fuck off. We saw him do so many amazing things. So many different players do well with him. I honestly think this deck should be maybe tier 1, tier 2 off of power alone, but this deck is expensive. This deck is expensive as fuck. At the end of the day, not a lot of people are going to have it. I don't even think that many entered compared to the other decks. Let's check real quick. You can see here, Odd Eyes, significantly much lower at a 6 entry rate, and having 2 actually make it to top cut is still pretty good. They have this really cool rank 7 Exceed monster that is just basically a Trident from Master Duel, which is quick play pop because all their monsters are dragons to make it with. And their Performer Pal Donkey plus Joker combo makes the deck extremely consistent, and consistently they're able to make this 1 pop plus graveyard negate every single turn, and it's just very hard to beat them once they get going. So Odd Eyes, I think, is a fantastic deck. I just think a lot of people don't own it, and I would love to see more people try it if they are able to obtain the cards. More people to try it and see what this deck can kind of get up to. Shiranui got Sun Saga back. Oh my goodness, and it has been very good for them. Sun Saga coming back frees up their limits 2 spots a little bit. While giving them their guaranteed ace monster. You guys know about Shiranui. Combo Shiranui is still dead. Trap Shiranui is the way. You play your traps, GG's, they can't get out of it, and you screw them up with Sun Saga. Shiranui, if you have Shiranui, you can easily play it. You can hit King of Games with it, and you can perform well in tournaments with it. I would not be surprised if we see someone win a tournament with Shiranui in the next couple months. That unbuff was that unban was really, really good for them. Next deck, I guess we could talk about Harpies a little bit. We don't need to talk about every deck on here, but Harpy ladies, I don't know, man. I think Harpies, I think they're just done. We saw them play Harpies Hunting Ground and go -1 and try to win, but it didn't work out for them in this tournament. In the tournament they did win, I feel like just having all the new box pretty much just put Harpy in the coffin. They were back a little bit, and now the new box is essentially just killed them off. No more. GG's, they're out. We don't need to necessarily talk about them anymore. And then the only other thing we can really talk about, I want to talk about, is Melodious. Melodious did make it to the grand finals. This is, you guys know me, I harp on Melodious a lot, not being able to, do much in the tournament scene. And while they did have a good running, I will say this, they got 2-0'd in the grand finals by DDD, and it did not look close. Not even close to being close. It was an absolute bloodbath. They just put too many monsters up for the Melodious player to deal with. Even with searchable score, it was not enough. I think the hardest fight that we saw the DDD player go through was like Yosinju, and that was just from back row spam. So I definitely think it was more of a Cinderella story that Melodious made it there. But that being said, Melodious is definitely a lot better as the metagame, funny enough, got weaker again. But yeah, it got weaker by only a little bit. Full power Phantom Knights would probably shit all over the current metagame that we have right now. But that's irrelevant. We all know that Duel Links doesn't want to be this extremely high level, high skill intensive game. It wants to have kind of a lower skill ceiling, probably for newer players to the game. And if that's what they want to do, they've completed their job by this ban list plus new box. Fluffles, we didn't see enough of them, unfortunately. Hopefully Fluffles can do something in the future, but as of right now, I have nothing to say about Fluffles. They got absolutely shit on, even though quite a few entered the tournament. They didn't even come close to topping. Maybe they're not optimized yet, I don't know, but for this tournament, they got absolutely shit on. So there you go. The winners, DDD, Odd Eyes, really those two are the real winners from the new box. And then the losers would be Harpies and Phantom Knights as they go down the rankings a little bit. I'm not going to do a tier list quite yet. I'll do a tier list if you guys want me to later in the week. I just feel like this is a brand new meta, and just day one having a tier list, the brand new meta, even though we have a $500 tournament to look at for statistics, would just be a little disingenuous. Just know that decks like DDD, Odd Eyes, Phantom Knight, Gandora, Buster Blader, Abyss, Burning Abyss. These are the decks that are going to be setting up the metagame. And then once it settles down a little bit in a couple weeks, I'll definitely make a video, or maybe just like in a week, I'll make a video talking about what I think the tier list will look like. And maybe we'll even reintroduce the power rankings. I know mods have been thinking about doing that lately. But yeah, we can definitely take a look at doing that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed this Rye report. Tell me what you think about this current metagame. I personally like it a lot. We're seeing a lot of Arc 5 decks pop off. We're seeing a lot of anime decks pop off. This is what Duel Links is supposed to look like. From me to you, I love you. Till next time, peace out, boys.